So, yeah, I spent 13 hours in the cinema watching all 3 Lord of the Rings movies, extended editions, back to back. It was pretty epic. So here in the UK, about a week or two ago, the Lord of the Rings movies were re-released in the cinemas with the extended editions. Locally to me, there was only one cinema showing all 3 movies in the same day, back to back to back. That was the Odeon at Glasgow Springfield Quay. So I did what any sane person would do on a Sunday without any work obligations or without any family obligations, and I spent the whole day at the cinema. The schedule was 11 a.m. for Fellowship, 3:30 p.m. for Two Towers, and 8 p.m. for Return of the King. Didn't think it was going to be like a Comicon cosplay type affair, so I didn't go in full on cosplay, but I did have my my Lord of the Rings belt and my One Ring glow in the dark, just to represent cosplay a little bit. Seat F16 in Screen 7 of Odeon at Glasgow Springfield Quay would be my home for the day, and off I went.
Okay, it is 10:40 a.m, just about to head into the cinema for the first of the extended Lord of the Rings movies. This will be my home for the next 13 or 14 hours. Quite excited. Wish I had planned a little bit more in terms of food and snacks and drinks, because I didn't bring anything, so I'll just be living off of the Odeon food for the day. So not the healthiest choice, but hopefully still quite tasty. Let's head in and start the Lord of the Rings extended edition movie marathon at the Odeon cinemas. Okay, it's 2:45 p.m, just finished watching Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, the extended edition at the Odeon cinemas. I haven't seen Fellowship for a couple of years. Haven't saw it in the cinema since it came out in the cinema 22 years ago. The version I saw in the cinema was the theatrical cut, so first time ever watching the extended edition in the cinema, and yeah, it still holds up. It's still a 9 out of 10, maybe a 10 out of 10 movie. I can't really remember how much of it is part of the extended edition and how much was in the theatrical cut. I don't remember there being a huge amount of extra footage in Fellowship, as up compared to Two Towers and compared to Return of the King. But the experience of watching Fellowship in the cinema 23 years later was pretty special. Standout moments, obviously, You Shall Not Pass, the fight at the end, Boromir's death, spoilers. Everything really holds up really well. I'm not sure, I'm assuming it's the digital print that was projected, and I think it suffers from similar issues that the 4K discs have, with the noise reduction and the kind of the waxy look to some of the skin tones, but it's very minor, and it's only in a few shots, mainly in Legolas's face and in Frodo's face. But other than that, everything holds up really well. All of the miniature shots that are seamlessly blended into full-size live action shots. It's shot on film, and I think that really stands out because there's 1 or 2 CGI shots that are obviously digital incarnations, and then they kind of stand out a little bit. But from a technical point of view, from a filmmaking point of view, it's almost a flawless picture. It's interesting, when I first saw The Fellowship of the Ring in the cinemas back in 2000 or 2001, whenever it was, I didn't actually know anything about Lord of the Rings. My only knowledge of it, my only experience of it, was that when it's referenced in Friends.
Well, why do you call him Gandalf?
Gandalf the Wizard. Hello, didn't you read Lord of the Rings in high school?
No, I had sex in high school.
That was my only knowledge of Lord of the Rings. So when I first saw The Fellowship of the Ring in the cinema, I didn't actually know it was the first part of a trilogy. So when it ended, I was like, wait, what? But they didn't even get to, destroy the ring. How's that the end? And then, my friends that I was with explained, yeah, it's the first book. There's 2 more movies to come. I was like, oh, that makes sense. Watching it now, knowing that it's part of a trilogy and obviously having seen it before, you can really appreciate all of the extra detail and character work that goes into this movie. The costumes, the armour, the sets, the movie's an advert for, New Zealand tourism. When the music hits at the start and when you see Hobbiton for the first time, it just, it puts a smile on your face. When you get to the Balrog fight and, Gandalf doing You Shall Not Pass, that's totally a goosebumps-inducing moment. So, first movie done. I'm going to grab a quick bite to eat. I've got about half an hour before the next movie starts. So I'll see you after the Two Towers. So just out of the Two Towers, it's about 7:30. Definitely my favourite of the trilogy, I think. I remember watching this in the cinema, and that's when I think I became a Lord of the Rings fan, is when I saw the Two Towers. Standout moments, off the top of my head, obviously the Helm's Deep battle at the end, it still holds up and it's still pretty epic. The whole Gollum character in general, but the Gollum Smeagol, Anyway, the Gollum Smeagol interaction, the way they first do that, where the camera moves around, but then it just ends up cutting between a conversation over the shoulder. It just works so seamlessly, and it makes you think that there's 2 different characters without even realising it, even though it's not 2 different characters. It's it's the voices inside the head of one character. But the way that they shot and edited that was just amazing, and just the whole Andy Serkis's whole performance as Gollum is just amazing. Other standout moments, obviously, Aragorn pushing open the doors in slight slow-mo with the hair going. I think everyone can agree that's a standout moment, and we can all accept why. Got about a half an hour break before we head in for the third and final movie, so I'm probably going to go and grab a Burger King, I think, because we've got a little bit of time. Side note, had some nachos in the cinema there. Forgot how much I liked the Odeon nachos, but I also forgot how strong the cheese was, so apologies to my neighbours for the smelly nacho cheese, but it's nacho cheese, it's my cheese. So yeah, just one movie left in the Lord of the Rings movie marathon at the cinema. I think I've been here now for about 8 hours, maybe 8 or 9 hours. Only 4 more to go. So yeah, just one movie left to go. Going to get some food first and then watch Return of the King. Okay, it is now 20 past midnight. I have been here at the Odeon for 13 hours. Just finished The Return of the King, the extended edition. Not going to lie, pretty tired. Kind of wish that one was a little bit shorter, especially if you're watching them all back to back. But it was still awesome. Standout moments from Return of the King. All the battle sequences are pretty epic. There's a specific shot of Boromir's and Faramir's dad, after he's tried to burn Faramir alive, and he sets himself on fire, and he runs across the platform at Minas Tirith and jumps off, and then the camera follows him down, and then tracks back to reveal the battle. That stands out as pretty epic cinema. Eowyn against the Witch King, that's a standout moment I think as well. I still think The Two Towers is my favourite of the trilogy, whether you're looking at the theatrical cut or the extended cut. It's something about The Two Towers just stands out as being, a standout of the trilogy. Really tired and I've got to drive home, so I'm going to stop talking here and we'll cut to Future James to wrap it up. Take it away, Future James.
Future James here. Well, present James, I suppose. That was past James that was in the car there. Clearly very tired by the end of that. I'm filming this wrap-up, this intro and wrap-up video. It's about a week or so after I actually did the cinema marathon, so that's why I look a little bit different. Got a haircut. Thanks for noticing. There's no denying the cultural impact that the Lord of the Rings movies have had on society in general, on the movie-going fandom. I was at a Comicon in Edinburgh just a couple of days ago. I was doing some filming for the event, and Elijah Woods was one of the guests there, and it was mobbed. There's still a huge appetite for Lord of the Rings and anything Lord of the Rings related, and this is 20 plus years after they were released. It's kind of like Star Wars in that sense, I think, in terms of the lasting cultural impact, the lasting fandom. Might not hit the heights of Star Wars, I suppose. Time will tell. I mean, Star Wars was, 50 years ago, 40 or 50 years ago, so, we'll see where Lord of the Rings is in another 20 or 30 years and see if it matches up. But I definitely think cultural impact-wise, just general pop culture-wise, just... Lord of the Rings is right up there with Star Wars. So what was the experience like sitting in a cinema for 13 hours watching, all 3 extended editions back to back to back? Screen-wise, in terms of like how busy it was, so for the 11 a.m. showing of Fellowship, I would say it was about 60% full. For the 3:30 p.m. of The Two Towers, it was about maybe 80% full. But then the 8 o'clock showing of Return of the King, I only spotted a couple of empty seats. I would say that was like 90, maybe 95% full. So, time of day obviously plays a part in it, but it just goes to show, the popularity of the movies to this day will, more or less fill cinema screens. Now, there was a 30-minute break in between each screening, but if you didn't sit through the credits, you ended up having about a 40-minute break. So that was quite useful. Just get some fresh air, go out to the car, record those pieces to camera in the car, get some food, get some snacks, get a Burger King, tasty. The whole experience wouldn't have been as pleasurable, as comfortable, if it wasn't for the fact that I was in an Odeon LUXE screen. Odeon LUXE screens have the big comfy reclining chairs. Other cinemas have comfy reclining chairs. Odeon isn't the only one that does it, but this was the only one that was showing, all 3 Lord of the Rings movies. If I was sat in a regular cinema chair for 13 hours, it would not have been comfortable at all, and I might have just given up after the second movie, to be honest. Seeing these movies in the cinema was epic. And another thing that would be epic would be a wee sub to the channel. Thank you very much. Watching the movies this long after having seen them for the first time when they came out was quite interesting. I actually liked Fellowship here a lot more than I thought I did. Fellowship traditionally was my least favourite of the trilogy, but I really enjoyed it a lot more here, watching it, as the first third of one giant 13-hour movie. There was so much more to appreciate, I think, on this type of viewing in that sense. But I think it's universally accepted that the extended editions are better than the theatrical cuts. The one thing that always comes to mind when you talk about extended editions versus theatrical is in Return of the King, the mouth of Sauron, that scene. Why that wasn't included in the theatrical cut is beyond me, because that's one of the best scenes in the entire trilogy. Extended editions versus theatrical, extended editions wins every time. Quick random side note, the extended editions that first came out on DVD back, in the early 2000s, you can see them there. The making of documentaries that are on them are still 20 plus years later. They are still like the standard bearer. They are still the mould. They are still they're still the bar of what making of documentaries can be. I remember watching them when I first got the disc sets back in the day, and you're engrossed in the filmmaking process. You feel like you're part of making the movie, so much so that when the 3, 4, 5 hour making of documentaries that are on these discs, when they're finished, like you genuinely feel sad and a little bit because you feel like you were part of that experience. So shout out to the people who made the documentary on the DVDs, because 20 years later they're still the example of what you can achieve when it comes to making of documentaries. The fact that it was the extended editions in the cinema for the first time, all 3 movies back to back, watching them in the one day for the first time, it was a once in a lifetime experience, and it's not something I think I'll ever replicate again. But I'm so glad that I did it. It was pretty awesome. Let me know in the comments below if you have ever done a Lord of the Rings movie marathon or any movie marathon in the one day. Let me know what that experience was like for you. Any suggestions for another movie marathon that I might do? I'm kind of working on one just now, but it's not in the one day. It's a Halloween related one. So I'm watching a franchise of movies over the course of 10 days or so. Hopefully that video will be up not too long after this one. And yeah, that's us. I will catch you in the next video.